how are we connecting and what devices are we using?
The more I think Indigenous people get that technology, they get the means to communicate, the means to be present in the information era.
There's so much opportunity in telling our stories and reconnecting us to our place and to ourselves.
We can create scenarios where it allows people to empathize. Not only are they inside the work, but they're actually part of the work.
Almost all of those, what we call future imaginaries, are made from a Western perspective. What does it mean to create Indigenous future imaginaries?
So good to see you, Cheyenne, and all these beautiful faces of these matriarchs, and hello to people there who are joining us. I am, of course, very fortunate to be on the unceded territories of the Squamish people here in Gibsons. My families are originally from the St. Paul de Métis and Whitefish Lake First Nations in Alberta, and also our family is one of the Red River Métis families as well, and I also am related to family from the Chippewa in North Dakota. I have one of the people who started the IM4 Lab. I won't say too much more. You can ask, Cheyenne may ask you some more questions about that, but I was so fortunate that in conceiving it that Tracey, Cease, and Doreen all agreed to be part of it as the matriarchs who can help govern and provide vision and guidance for the IM4 Lab. And yeah, hi.
Awesome, thank you. Cease.
Pasquale, Tanoya, Toits Tanat, Quian Quinchaman, Cease Quian Sna, and Tanatchan Klas Lahan Okameo, Skomish Chan, Iman Tanat Lastalo, Hawaiian East Swiss, on Wanoxton Squalowin, on Huff and Squalowin Teetsies. So, hello everybody. My traditional name is Toits Tanat. My nickname is Cease. I am, as I said, from the Squamish Nation. I'm also Stalo, Hawaiian and Swiss. My heart feels good. It's a good day, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Doreen?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sequopnik Tanaha. My traditional name is Kanklupakakin, which means running wolf in my mother's language of the Tanaha. I live in Vancouver, BC on the Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh territory. I'm the sixth child of Grand Chief George Manuel and spiritual leader Marceline Manuel. My father, George, was the first Indigenous person in the world to unite the Indigenous people of the world and he led the under the World Council of Indigenous Peoples, and he led the Constitution Express to entrench our Indigenous rights in the Canadian Constitution. He was the leader of the National Indian Brotherhood, now known as the AFN, the Assembly of First Nations. So he built that original organization into the national lobbying organization for our people. I have an MFA in film production, and I'm currently the director of the BOSA Center for Film and Animation at Capilano University. And I'm on the board of directors of Knowledge Network, Women in Film, and the Vancouver International Film Festival and Moving Images Distribution. I serve on the Telefilm Indigenous Working Group, and I'm a partner with Telefilm Talent to Watch Fund, through which I've helped several Indigenous artists create, develop, produce their first feature films. I serve on the Motion Picture Producers Association Equity and Inclusion Committee, and I'm an advocate for Indigenous in the film and TV industry. I've recently developed a pathway program with Disney to get more of our people on film productions, working as crew. I'm also the founder of the Women in Film and Television Tricksters and Writers feature film screenwriting program, and one of the founders of the Indigenous Digital Accelerator for Indigenous businesses, which helps to offer funds to help Indigenous business develop the digital components of their companies. And I'm the founder and developer of the very new Filmmakers in Indigenous Leadership and Management Business Affairs program, which is an online program for mid and early career Indigenous producers. I've been in the film industry for 18 years. I've been involved in education for 35 years. And I'm really honored that Loretta has included me in this group of extremely esteemed artists, these incredible women that we walk by her side and we support her. It's just one of the greatest honors to watch and be part of this incredible force of woman power and nurturing growth and development. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Tracey?
YEP Chiap Isquist Sumakat Kantil Sin Pinkton Deacon Mut Azulach White Limlimt Quillanchutens Ala and Tumhulach Limlimt in Humink in Skulum in Snucksilch. So my name is Tracey Kim Bonneau, and my Nsilchan name is Sumakhatk, and Sumakhatk comes from my great uncle Martin Louis from the Columbia River. I was given that name. Sumakhatk was alive between 1700 and 1800, and so that name was passed down to me. She's related to Kinkanahua, the salmon chief of the Columbia River system. It's a real honor to be here today, and thank you, Cheyenne, for hosting us. And I really want to thank all of the matriarchs and Loretta for her amazing vision to bring us all together. With these incredibly creative minds and all of the people that are working to make our lives better and to be the best creative minds and visionaries that we could possibly be. I'm Okanagan. I live in I'm Syilx, and I live in the Okanagan Territory, and I do all kinds of things. But what I'm doing here today is probably what I love the most. Wai'ihi.
Thank you so much. Yes, what an honor to have you all in the same room, but not really. I know you're all very busy, but yes, thank you so much for sharing and introducing yourselves. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the background of IM4. You know, IM4 stands for Indigenous Matriarchs 4 Media Lab. And it is in collaboration with Emily Carr University to offer workshops training Indigenous people in XR. IM4 is dedicated to indigenizing VR, AR, 360 by enabling Indigenous communities to find effective ways to incorporate these technologies into educational, cultural, language, artistic, and commercial applications. At the core of IM4 Media Lab is the guidance of the media matriarchs who bring experience and commitment to serving the community. So I've been hosting this podcast now. This is our last episode. And it's been a really good experience. I've learned so much from so many incredible artists from all over. And thank you so much for allowing me to do this. And one thing we've been doing is asking everyone the rapid river question. So basically it's a set of questions that we ask, and you're just supposed to answer it with the first thing that comes to mind, just kind of as fast as you can. And I'm going to ask each and one of you one of those questions. So we're going to start with Loretta. And the question is, if you weren't in your current profession, what would you want to be?
So you're asking something I didn't know you were going to ask. Well, that's very trickstery. That's good. What would I be? It's funny because my life's journey has been so different, if you like. I mean, I don't think it's different from a lot of our people, but I ran away home when I was 13, so I didn't get a lot of formal education. I had to go back and learn that myself. And so, the paths that I've taken have taken me in, many different ways. And of course, to becoming a filmmaker, I was fortunate to go to film school and been making films for a number of years. But so it's hard to imagine being something other than filmmaker. But along the way, when I was thinking, well, how am I going to support my family? What can I do to support, my daughter? And there's crazy things that came up, like, oh, I'll be an air traffic controller because I hear they make good money. And I thought, no, well, I probably couldn't handle the pressure. And then I have a lot of people in my family who are, who've studied law. I have a niece who's a lawyer, and I have another niece who's, has a, master's in law, and all these people who kind of followed that. And I thought that was something I could consider, but I realized that that's such a dedicated, you have to be so dedicated. But I think one of the things that I really, when I close my eyes, I see, many, many visual images. And I've often wanted to be able to have that means and the time to be able to just take those images and put them on, I'm putting them on screen, but what if I could put them on canvas? What if I could put them, do digital art? So I think really it would be another form of artist. I don't think I could be anything other than an artist, but it would be another form of artist. And I also extremely admire scientists and musicians. So I'd be an artist, scientist, musician.
Nice. Good answer. I would learn how to sew and make clothes. Cease, if you could time travel, when and where would you go?
Sorry. Where would I go? Ooh, so exciting. I actually would go back to probably 200 years ago, because most of what I'm trying to understand in my practice, not just in digital media, but in cultural studies, a lot of it has been sparked recently by my daughter's extreme interest in the Coast Salish woolly dogs. And I would want to time travel back and grab two dogs, a male and a female, and bring them back here, back to the future with the Coast Salish woolly dogs. I think that would be exciting. And it would also be amazing to see what our people look like pre-contact without that disturbance in our rift, and to just see the beauty of our ancestors, how they lived. I think it's an easy one to imagine for so many Indigenous people. We'd want to see that beauty of our ancestors and living this pre-colonial life, and just knowing how beautiful the lands and waters were before we could really see them and capture those, even without a camera, we could capture them in our mind's eye, and as Indigenous creators have a more, more obvious and more succinct vision of the work we're trying to create. Because a lot of the work that I'm doing, especially through IM4, is creating experiences for people and bringing them into places they can't go. And I can't think of a better place to take people than 200 years ago. It would be so amazing.
Yeah. I totally agree. It sounds like a VR project you need to make. Cool. Thank you for sharing. I would totally go there too. Tracey, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
If I could have one superpower, honestly, I would like somebody to pour, and I know I have to work at this, but I would like somebody to pour my entire Insilkjan language in my brain. And I would love to be able to speak the language even 500 years ago, because we know that language really, changes over time. It evolves, so yeah, if there was some sort of magic funnel that could just like pour the language in me, and then I could just speak it fluently. Oh, and then I would also like to learn all the other 5 languages of the groups around us, and then be able to give them the language. So I would just like zap them, and then they would have the language fluently from 500 years ago. So that would be so cool. A superpower. Yeah. I love language.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Just zap, your language. Cool. Doreen, if you could snap your fingers to make a new technology appear, what would it do?
It would be a transporter to instantly return our lost children, women, and men to their homes and families.
That's a good one. Thank you for sharing. And finally, this one goes out to whoever wants to share. If you all want to answer it, please do. What is your secret talent? On the show we had, people who are singers and, all kinds of talents that you don't really share with us. If anyone wants to answer that.
I don't know if it's a secret talent because I won an award for it. I'm a bead artist and I tan hides, but I always feel like I use all my talents, like I'm an open book, and I use all of my talents in every way I can to help and to participate. So I don't know, I can't think of anything that people don't know about me, but people don't know that.
You all have multiple talents, right? And practice those talents, but maybe you're an opera singer or something. I don't know. Anyone else?
I don't. I think the only thing it's not even really, I don't know if it's a secret, but talent, I don't know if it's a talent, but I have incredible capacity to endure. So my secret talent is endurance. And so, it's funny, recently this discussion I see came up on social media about resilience. Someone was saying, people keep saying we're resilient, and we're incredibly resilient, but why do we have to keep being resilient? And so it sort of ties in with resilience and endurance, but yeah, that's about all the thing I can think of. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I guess yeah, I think that, I don't know. I think that's it. Maybe a little bit of Kookum power. But
cool. Anyone else?
I have one. I have an incredible memory. It has been said like a photographic memory. I can remember things in detail, and describe like what my mom was wearing like 45 years ago, and the print on her shirt and on her skirt and those kinds of things. But oddly enough, this photographic memory does not click in when I lose my keys. So I don't know if it's really a secret talent or like, so, but yeah, I have a this type of memory where I remember in pictures, and it's very detailed, yeah, it's kind of cool. So
Nice. That's good skill for sure.
Well, this one, I think, I kind of feel inspired by a short film that I did with some to Slay with Tooth youth several years back, where they did a film called Touching the Past, and they would touch something and it would transport them back to another time so they could witness things, but also be in the scenario. And I think I would want to use that for learning deeper skills. Like I'm really obsessed with cedar root weaving, and when my grandmother passed, her knowledge of that went, and I'm the second oldest of my cousins, and I had the privilege of sitting with her at her feet while she processed her cedar roots. But I would love to be able to touch like an object and have a way to transport into a time period where you could learn and observe. And I guess, as I'm saying the things I'm sharing tonight, I'm thinking I really kind of am built for this XR world, because I just want to I really want to be transported places, and I want to experience things that, much like what Tracey said about having that knowledge funnel in, I would want that knowledge to funnel in of something that I could touch and know how to gather those cedar roots in the proper way and how to process them, and then how to weave coil baskets, because we've lost our teachers. They've made their journeys, and there's very few in any of the Coast Salish nations. I only know one guy that's really talented, and he's 102 years old, and I can't even go to visit him, but he was trained by his great grandmother from the age of 8. And so when he speaks, you feel transported, like you feel like you've been taken to that other time. And I think that's really powerful.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for answering our Rapid River questions. So let's start the conversation. I just have, some questions I want to ask you. Talk about your projects you're working on. What do we see in the future? And I'll just start with Loretta. And we just wanted to talk about the Media Lab and kind of how it's changed since COVID hit us, and
Well,
what's happening.
when I envision IM4 Lab, I always talk about it as a circle, and then it gets an ever expanding circle, so that we're bringing more and more people into that space. And since we've started the IM4 Lab, there's probably over 200 people have taken our workshops. Some of those are people who come back, and actually we're very proud of the fact that many people have come back. So it's maybe not 200, individual people, but 200 people have come to our workshops and more. And if we expand that to include, the things we've done online, that would increase the number, because we don't, if I'm counting the people who've since checked in on our webinars and so on. So, it's been really remarkable in that short amount of time how we've been able to bring these skills of immersive technology to everyone. And that was the vision. It was for everyone. You didn't have to have a prerequisite. You didn't have to have studied even, media, although certainly the people who have been drawn to XR and VR and AR have been people in media, but, it's been expanded. It's been, open to anyone who wants to come. So that's included, elders and teenagers, and, we're so, honored that, one of our great supporters of the IM4 Lab is a professor of linguistics from Hawaii that comes through, almost every workshop we've done because she wants to use the skills to help teach language. So we're, I feel that it's achieved its goals and more some from the original vision. It was funded, originally from a Western Diversification Grant. And since then, we were lucky to get other funding from places like Congress of Aboriginal People, the Creative BC, ISO, the Indigenous Screen Office, Discovery Foundation. So we've done workshops like AR for matriarchs, mentoring for and by matriarchs. So there's been a variety of things. Doreen, I'm sure she'll talk about the VR that she was able to do, and that Tracey's been working on a VR now, and so the opportunities are there for everyone. Since COVID, of course, I think it allowed us to really take advantage of technology to offer the training online. The things you could do in person were a little different, and so we had to adapt. But we were so lucky, and of course, I have to give big props out to our team, our small team, Alana Vandeman, Shawanda, and Colin Van Loon, because they work so hard to offer these training, get these workshops going. We have an incredible group of instructors who come in and are so excited and enthusiastic about sharing their knowledge. And we've tried to kind of pivot to workshops that wouldn't be too hard to do online, as opposed to, of course, it's going to be harder to learn how to shoot VR with the Trident camera we have, or the Titan, I mean. And so it's so we've done things like web, doing your own music video and web VR, our AR, a lot of interest in AR, augmented reality, and that's really helped draw a lot more people to our workshops. So yeah, it's COVID was a challenge, but I think we really met that challenge. I feel like we really created that inclusive space. No one has to feel like they don't belong learning these technologies. So I think we've achieved that. Also, our next phase is to take a lot of the workshops that we have been offering. We're currently in the process of creating an app, which was funded by the ISO office, and that app will go to anyone, and they'll be able to do the workshops even if they don't have full broadband, because a lot of our communities don't yet. So they'll be able to go into, we'll send them a smartphone, or and they'll be able to take all the workshops online. And if they want to go even further, we'll send them a computer, and we'll have create a community around it so that there'll be mentors available so they can take the workshop themselves, and then meet in the meetups online to get more details, to kind of walk themselves through if they need with training. That's one of the things we're doing, and one of the things I'm quite excited about, which I hope happens, because we applied for some funding, and we're supposed to hear soon, is something called Introduction to AI through Music for Indigenous Youth. Indigenous youth are using a lot of electronic music right now. DJs like you, Cheyenne, and people everywhere are working in electronic music and electronic art and digital art. So to me, it was a good way to bring a discussion in about AI. I know that a lot of our youth are kind of really using these technologies, but we're not talking about some of the kind of fundamental technology that's behind it. And what's behind it is even growing more and more influential within the use of these technologies. So I thought it was really important we find a way in for our youth to talk about AI, because they're the ones who are going to start really defining and thinking about what is AI. And of course, we're very lucky to have people like Michael Running Wolf and Caroline Running Wolf, who are themselves, leaders in the discussion around machine learning and Indigenous AI and how to indigenize AI. And, so many of our other people who've been part of that, like Jason Lewis and the group of people who wrote that article, Making Kin with Machines. So I'm trying to take it to a practical level. So, that's a theoretical level, but how can it be practical in the lives of our people and our youth? How can they think about it without having to have a computer science degree? And I think that was one of the ways of being able to bring in this discussion, because I think it's really important, because if we're not there, AI is going to be already good. It's already being used against us. AI, facial recognition, all the algorithms that, on social media that basically shut down, what was it, a little while ago, Instagram shut down a lot of missing woman accounts around. So, that's being done by, machine learning. And how can we influence that? I think our people need to be there for that discussion. And I wanted to make it a fairly, again, an accessible way. So our youth are using that technology. So now let's take it to that discussion. And it's not going to be, learning to code. It's going to be about having that kind of creative influence over what does AI mean. So those are some of the things. Eventually, myself, I do have some projects in the works that are potentially would have immersive elements within them. And I'm really, really concerned also more and more these days about the wellness of our youth. When I talk youth, I mean teenagers, particularly through COVID, but also just the sort of struggles you're dealing with. And can these technologies, can we use them for the good of the health and wellness of our youth? And they have to be there. They have to be able to say, this is how these technologies can work or not work for us. So those are some of the things and challenges I'm kind of envisioning for the future. And again, I couldn't do it without, these lovely women. They've been able to give us direction, give us guidance, give us inspiration, give us energy. And, the team has been great. And we have some wonderful people in the car that support us as well. And it's, overall, we've been moving really quite, how should I say? It's like, sometimes it's almost a surprise that it's sort of like grown in the way that it has, despite our limited budget and our, very small staff. In fact, we had a discussion recently with somebody within the provincial government who was interested in knowing what we were doing, and they said they couldn't believe we were doing all this with the budget that we have. So yeah, that's some of the things that I wanted to share.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so cool to see this grow, because I remember years ago when you're just getting started and having your first meetings with Emily Carr, and now it's a full-on media lab coming out of there. And my favorite part is like anyone can take the workshops. You don't need high school or all these requirements to just get to learn things. So I think that's super important, especially for Indigenous people, right? Because not everyone went to university or finished high school. So thank you so much for doing all the work that you do at the Media Lab. It's really awesome.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah, and you've been part of it. I mean, we're really glad that you've been part of it. I mean, and you're also an inspiration, Cheyenne, because I remember when you started you wanted to be a DJ.
Yeah.
You started because I know you edit, you are the most amazing editor, but I remember you wanted to be a DJ and you became a DJ, and that's a real inspiration for our young people and for our old people too, because you were able to kind of like take this technical board, and create beautiful music and bring this beautiful energy into the world. And it's so indigenized. You so indigenize that equipment. It inspires me all the time.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. For sure. So let's keep talking about VR 360. Doreen, I know you're working on a project with the IM4 Lab called the Unseated Chiefs. You want to tell us about the film and your process and your experience with that?
Yeah, the film itself is it's about early Indigenous activism, particularly here in British Columbia, from 1969, from when the white paper policy was introduced by Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Jean Chrétien, and the fight that the Indigenous people put up in response to, and the unity that was reformed out of that fight. And carries on and brings us into modern day and shows what's going on today and the things that we're battling and how we're battling today. And I created the VR film as part of that unit. So it's a separate piece, but it's a part of the unit, and we travel into the spirit world to see what the spirits are seeing, how they're seeing us. And we have the opportunity to review some of the pages of the actual white paper policy in that VR. And I just want to say about, some of the things that Loretta was talking about about how, and you were talking about how it's accessible to everyone. I am really challenged when it comes to technology. You know, when I first started studying film in 2003, I could barely hook up a VCR, and this ages me too, saying VCR. I bet you there's some youth that don't even know what a VCR is, but I could barely hook up a VCR to a television set. I mean, like literally, I'm dead serious about that. I was really incompetent with technology. And, you know, I wound up really enjoying editing after a while. And I came into IM4 very much the same, like really struggling to understand. And, you know, I remember the one workshop I was taking with Dorothy Christian, and, you know, we looked at each other at one point and we were like, I feel like my head's going to explode. And she was like, yeah, me too. And so we just said, you know, we told Monty, okay, we got to take a break now. And I think we'll come back tomorrow. And, you know, but that was the wonderful thing. We could self-pace ourselves and know when we'd had too much. And then more recently, when I took some of the more recent workshops with the other teachers, it was the same thing. Well, I brought my daughter with me because I was kind of concerned that I wouldn't be able to keep up with the class, and I didn't want to get lost, and I didn't want to hold anybody back. So she's an editor, so she came with me, and plus I wanted her to learn these skills. And I was really grateful I brought her because she was able to keep us up, and I would have fallen behind if it wasn't for her. And she was able to, like, in the sideline, talk to me and help me understand what it is we were doing, you know, at a deeper level. And so she was like a little private tutor for me. And then there was another part, you know, where I felt really overwhelmed because it was a lot to kind of hold in my head. And it felt the same, that I could just slow down and just take a break from it and then come back to it. And I just love that about how we include everybody, you know, in our circle, so that people that are struggling like me still have the time, still can take the time, and still can learn it. It's open to everybody. And I think that there's so much possibility with it. There's a whole other world, you know, literally a whole other world that we can build our story inside of. And I love how immersive that is and how inclusive that is to, you know, to everybody. I remember as a young person working with an elder, and she would send me out into the field. She would draw a picture of a medicine. She said, go get me this, and I'll tell you what it's for. And I'd run out to the field, and I'd find something and bring it back and show it to her. And she goes, oh, no, that's not the same thing. And she'd tell me what that's for. Then I'd have to go back out again. Kept doing this. And I slowly learned a little bit about medicine because she was crippled in one leg and she couldn't go out there herself. So today I'm thinking, wow, the possibilities that this could open up, like this whole other world. Or when I was living in the United States, they have this program in this one community where they've been doing this for 40 years now, where they take elders out onto the land. And they, when the elders are all camping out on the land, they remember stories that they won't remember when they're in the village. You know, that lived memory comes back to them, and then they'll start telling these stories that you're never going to hear, you're never going to get if you don't bring them out onto the land. And some of them can't go back out on the land anymore because the condition of their bodies is they're too elderly. But could you imagine bringing them out into the land in this way, and the stories that we would be able to retrieve and we'd be able to save if we could do these things? It's just so limitless, and I love that about it. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to say, you're the one that taught me how to transfer a VHS to a DVD. So I felt how you felt, you know, learning all this technology and new stuff. It's definitely a lot to keep up with and learn, but it's cool that we can do that and keep up with the technology these days, for sure. So I would love to hear about the VR project you worked on. The
Yeah,
Dakota ancient.
Yeah, I have a really exciting summer going on with this 360 VR experience, dome experience that I'm working on with Damien Gillis and Olivier Leroux. Olivier is one of our instructors, and the three of us kind of threw our money and our talents together, and we've been co-producing this project all about ancient forests and old growth forests and all anti-logging. And so we created a project around a piece of land that is in really close to where Loretta's living, in the Elphinstone on the Sunshine Coast. And it's called, we have a couple of names, like we started off just calling it Sanctuary. And we were inspired to create a dome experience because of COVID, and how do we get an audience without, utilizing headsets, etc. And so these guys literally designed and built this amazing 360 dome experience. And we used the Titan from the IM4 Lab because we're the only ones with that equipment, which is awesome. It really, I think that really puts us on the map too, to show how powerful our Matriarch Lab is, that we are keeping up to state-of-the-art technology, but we're all, from everything we're all talking about, we're really talking about really near and dear subjects to all of our hearts, things that really motivate us. And I hadn't mentioned this when I said my name, but Toits Tanat is, Toits are our plants, our medicines. Tanat is woman. And the deeper meaning of my name is woman that travels by canoe to gather medicines for people. And canoes are made of cedar. Cedar is the tree of life. And it was one of the first things that was wiped out on the Pacific Northwest coast, were these ancient cedars. And so throughout British Columbia, there are very few of these pockets of forests left. And it's why we're seeing all these wildfires and, all this contribution from the mining industry, the pipelines, everything is all a direct result of resource extraction. And, the fact that we have tiny pockets of these forests left, and we saw this summer with Ferry Creek, as they were slicing it down, the temperatures rose up, a whole town burnt to the ground. So climate change is really hitting us hard. So that's the motivation for this project, is to really raise awareness of how intrinsic these forests are and how invasive the logging industry is. And at this point in human timeline, we don't actually need lumber for anything. I think everybody can agree that we can build things with other materials, that we don't have to destroy forests to do that. And this forest in particular, Stelkaya, which is what the Squamish name is for this land on the Sunshine Coast, is a particularly unique place where the forest is intact from the Ice Age. So it's an ancient forest. It's not just an old growth forest. There are 1,600-year-old yellow cedar trees there, and some of the trees are starting to hollow out, and bears are climbing in, and it's like they're having their babies in there. They're living in these perfect environments for their birthing and raising their children, and it's so powerful. And the slopes are like this. Like when you're walking, you're struggling. You're not just walking through. And we see pink flagging tape in there where they're trying to rope off and take a forest, and dig into it to create a road for humans to drive in there and keep destroying. And there's so little left of it. It's a tiny sliver of a once magnificent ancient forest. And so because of these imperative timings with the logging industry being so invasive and destructive and aggressive, our work is really timely. And so this summer we have the we have the 360 dome in 2 cities consecutively at the same time. So one in North Vancouver. I finally got to help them build this dome. And, you know, they have this heavy wooden ring as the base. And then we have these triangles of cardboard that were painted white on one side and then held together with paper clips, believe it or not, big, strong paper clips. But when you are a visitor coming in, you come in and you immerse into this dome, and you can look all around and you can see the forest, you can hear the sound of the creek, and you're brought into that forest, into this experience that, you know, reminds you how delicate that ecosystem is, and seeing the wild medicines growing everywhere. And, you know, I walked by these giant tree funguses that were just dripping with moisture. And one of my friends said, oh yeah, the bears walk by and, you know, they just lick that for a little bit of water. I'm like, oh, you know, just the images. And at one point we take the Titan and we put it inside one of these ancient cedars. So as a viewer, you get to experience being inside this ancient cedar and have that moment of really understanding. And it was fun for me because I went inside to see what it was like. And I literally had to slide in and tumble like a bear would. And I imagined being a little baby bear and climbing in there. And it was the softest bed, because that cedar, as most people know, when it starts to decay, it becomes very soft. And it's like the softest, it's like peat moss. It's really soft and light. And so all of those things really opened up my mind to how really vital it is that we, as Indigenous people, are able to bring people into these experiences. My mother, who's almost 80, there's no way she could get into that forest. She couldn't even handle the ride in a 4x4 to where we had to stop and then walk another hour in. So for her, she's writing these books about our history. And I was like, Mom, I can take you into an ancient forest from the Ice Age. She was like, what? You know, just, she lit up and she got to experience this. And it was just mind blowing for her. So, awesome. So I think we're at a place where it's so important that we use this technology to educate people, as well as have fun and imagine worlds that we haven't created yet. But Indigenous people are all storytellers and creators, and we all have such important stories to tell that, you know, when we actually get through one, we just see the endless possibilities. So I could go on and on more about it. I want to give more time for my colleagues, and I want to really thank you all for this amazing evening together. Like, I'm inspired constantly by all of you, everybody in this room and beyond. And thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Is that something we can check out right now?
Yes. So you can check it out at the North Vancouver Arts Council Cityscape Gallery on Lonsdale. And it's good to go on their website and book a time, because we can only have so many people in at a time, but you can take groups in up to 6. And really exciting, the other one is at the Museum of Anthropology in the Haida House. So you're surrounded by cedar in the Cedar House with this dome project. And again, they're showing that, I think, on weekends, but the North Vancouver Gallery is showing every day. And the North Vancouver Gallery also features some Squamish weavers and cedar artists in that. And so every part of it is really raising the awareness and bringing you into the importance of cedar.
Awesome. Cool. Definitely have to check that out. Thank you for sharing. Tracey, do you have any projects you wanted to share with us?
We don't have much time left, but that's okay. Mine is actually in planning, and so my project is about huckleberry, and it's part of the extension of a beginning project. And the reason that I wanted to work with the huckleberry is because I'm a berry picker, and because my territory is vast, and I wanted to, as an artist, I wanted to do something that I could share, and something that I was really passionate about. And so my number one passion is language. I do want to become fluent by the time I'm 65. And so part of me building my fluency will be with this VR 360 immersive project. So there's a couple of elements to it, and we're going to be going out and shooting in August, and we're going to be going out to the Arrow Lakes territory. I am Sinixt, and my lineage goes back to through my mother to Annie Joseph, who was the last registered Sinixt member in Oatscott. And so I really believe that this tool is going to be important for our language learning within our band schools. I also feel like it's important for our language revitalization efforts within the universities. We have a degree, the first degree of its kind in the language, the Bachelor of Insilchan Fluency language degree. And so I think, for me, creating an educational tool, but that's just one layer of it. I think for me as an artist, this is going to be very difficult. I'm a documentary writer, producer, and director. So to grasp this new technology, as my colleagues have indicated, is a real challenge. And I'm up for the challenge. And I'm excited, and I really enjoyed hearing what the other matriarchs shared, because we all get together when we can, which is sometimes only once a year. With the pandemic, I haven't seen everybody in about 2 years. But, Ulus, is, us, people working together, right? Ulus. And so all of this work that we're doing with this new technology, I know that it has a purpose. And so the cool thing about this is I'm not quite sure what the purpose will be in the end, but I know it's a language tool, and I know that I'll be able to use this Titan, which I'm completely thrilled about. I got a First Peoples grant to mentor with Caroline, Caroline Running Wolf?
Yeah, Running Wolf.
Yeah, Caroline Running Wolf. And she's my mentor. And it's been amazing. And Olivier as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I like Doreen, this is a challenge, this new technology. Although I've always loved technology, I'm kind of a nerd that way. But this is going to be hard, and that's when it becomes fun, is when it's hard, because then when you have the breakthrough, you're like, this is totally why I wanted to do this. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but
Totally.
I think every artist knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to just sort of throw out the fact that I think one of the things that VR is so exciting for us as Indigenous people is because when we think about a story, we don't think about it just on the 2D screen. It's that 360 and beyond. The circle just extends beyond what is just on that two-dimensional space. And I think that's why you're seeing so many Indigenous people, feel entranced, if you like, or drawn to this technology. So I that's what excited me about it too. Is I used to say this about other aspects of this new digital world, is that digital world's catching up with us. And even though this technology is, maybe it's it's complex in the fact that it's expensive and, involves a lot of circuitry and, programming and so on, but it's not complex in terms of the vision. And I think the vision is there within these beautiful, talented women and all these other Indigenous artists who are drawn to VR and AR and other experiences. And I think we're going to transform it. That's the other thing with the IM4 Lab. It's not just that we're using the technology, but that we transform it itself so that it again sort of represents and serves us. So I think that's really critical to it at all. I know we got to wrap up. I also wanted to thank the producer of this series, Sarah Ellis Fox, and our new person who's working with us now, Mandy, who's come on board, who's from Emily Carr. And we also have a great, Savannah is our great social media person who lets the world know about all the work we're doing out there. And so just wanted to send respect to everybody. And this is our last podcast. I hope you can all go back. If you haven't listened to all of them, go back and listen to the others. There's so many brilliant people who shared their knowledge and experience, just like these powerful Indigenous women did today. And hi, thank you so much. And Cheyenne, we love you. We love you. We're all sending you so much love.
For sure. Thank you so much for your time today. It is time to wrap up, but I just wanted to also, I'm the musical guest. Every episode has a musical guest, and today I'm the musical guest, so they're going to play the set at the end. And basically, I was just talking to musicians about what they're up to, and what any projects or songs they are doing, or the song that they wanted to share. I don't have a song that I made that I wanted to share, so I just put together a little DJ set at the end. I don't know if there's any questions you guys wanted to ask me about that. I mean, I haven't been DJing much because of COVID, and now that things are opening up, I'm about to have a baby, so I have to start saying no to things, and that's been a challenge for me, I think, because I'm like so excited to just get back to it, and it's like, oh, I can't, like, I'm gonna have a little baby, so I got to figure out how to make it work, and it will work, I know. But for me, that's just what I'll be up to here. I'm debating on doing one last show this weekend. My doctor tells me not to, but I want to. It's not fair because COVID, it's like, oh, I've been home, but now I can go out. But if you don't have any questions, I just want to say.
Well, I don't have any questions, but it's be cool. Maybe you could have a cradle board. And they were doing these nightclubs where people would wear headphones, so only they would hear the music, so that it wouldn't be blasting out. So you could, all the people could wear the headphones, and your baby could be in your cradle board on your back, and so it would be safe. And
silent disco. Yeah, I've been to one of those. Yeah, I've been to one where they had 3 different DJs on the stage, and then the headphones had different colors to match the DJ. And so you can just change to any DJ you wanted, and you can see who's listening to what. It was really cool. And to add some VR into that somehow, that would be really cool too.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope it works. We'll help make it work, maybe. We'll try.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to everyone who is tuned in and listening. We appreciate your time. If you want to learn more about the workshops at the IM4 Media Lab or listen to the podcast, you can go to the website. It's im4lab.com. So thank you so much for tuning in, and everyone take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Hi. Okay. Sending love to everybody.
White math. Love you all.
Okay.